Hello YouTube and fellow DC comic fans, I'm Keith One Shot, and this is the third video in my new comic recap series, and today we will continue the series with DC Rebirth, Batman issue 22, The Button Part 3, Flashpoint Batman Father and Son. All art, text, characters, and storylines belong to DC Comics, not me. And if you enjoy these stories, feel free to go out and support DC Comics in your local comic book shop by picking up these issues. We start the issue off with Thomas Wayne, the Batman, from the Flashpoint timeline, and the father of Bruce Wayne. He begins explaining the events that happened in the Flashpoint timeline, how he watched his son get shot, how he beat to death the man who did it, how he became the Batman. Then he talks about how Aquaman and Wonder Woman's war destroyed most of the world, and how a man named the Flash came and told him this was all wrong. This wasn't the way things were supposed to be. The Flash had created this alternate timeline when he traveled through time to save his mother's killing, which caused ripples across the lives of those closest to the Flash, making this timeline Thomas Wayne lives in. The Flash was able to fix the timeline with the help of Thomas Wayne and bring things close to back to the way they were supposed to be, although that also meant that the Flashpoint timeline would no longer exist. We watched in the Flashpoint as that version of the timeline was erased and swallowed by an explosion. That was the last we've seen of the Flashpoint timeline. Until now, as it seems like the Flashpoint timeline was put on life support and that somehow the Flashpoint timeline still remained. We see Thomas Wayne sitting in a chair in his Batcave, wishing that this nightmare of a world would end as it was supposed to, comparing it to a patient on a surgery table who is too far gone, that it's no longer worth helping, saying it's easier to let it pass there on the table rather than to continue to cut. Apparently the wars have continued, fights, floods, and millions of deaths. Thomas thinks himself a fool for having hope he could help, and it seems now that the one thing Wonder Woman and Aquaman can agree on is seeing the Batman killed. We see the soldiers of the two armies coming after Thomas Wayne. They are making their way into Wayne Manor, and Thomas knows they're coming. He holds a trigger in his hands, and it looks like he's ready to die. Just then, a loud crack! It's Barry Allen and Bruce Wayne, Thomas Wayne's son, and the Batman from our Earth. Bruce seems to know where he is. It's an early setup of the Batcave. He'd know it anywhere, ever since he fell down here as a child and his father helped him up. Bruce knows something is up and asks Barry where the hell are they. Just then, Thomas and Bruce see each other, and both think this can't be real. Thomas asking Flash what is going on. Thomas thinking it's a trick, grabs Barry by the neck, choking him and punching him. The Flash escapes and tells both Batmen that this is real. They are father and son. This is their Earth, not another world, and that something or someone seems to be keeping this Flashpoint timeline alive, almost as though it's being held in place. It's like this world is a ghost here to haunt them, as it should no longer exist. Thomas questions why Bruce can't even look at him, and then Barry mentions that they need to rebuild the cosmic treadmill so they can all escape the Flashpoint. Thomas says you best make it quick. Barry, with a smirk on his face, says should be done in about a minute, and then asks why. Just then, Wonder Woman and Aquaman soldiers enter the Batcave, ready to kill the three of them. Thomas pulls out his gun, ready to fight, telling Bruce and Barry to get away from here, and he'll handle this. Bruce throws a batarang, knocking the gun out of Thomas's hand, telling him that they will all get out together. Bruce asks his father if this Batcave has defense plans. Thomas jokingly says, "Thinking ahead was always more of your mother's thing, Bruce." And then, the two Batmen pull down their cows, ready to fight with their fists. We see two Batmen, Thomas and Bruce Wayne, father and son, fighting back to back, smashing Aquaman and Wonder Woman's soldiers as the Flash is building a new cosmic treadmill as fast as he can. As Barry finishes and all the soldiers are defeated, Bruce and Thomas talk about the time Bruce fell down in this cave as a boy, and Thomas asking Bruce if he remembered what he told him. Then Bruce tells Thomas he remembers him whispering to him because he didn't want to scare the bats. Just then, Barry tells Thomas and Bruce that we all have to go. The treadmill is powered up and it will leave without them. All of a sudden, we see the world begin to erase the way it did at the end of the Flashpoint event, a light erasing everything. Barry then asked the two if they felt that, saying it feels like whatever was holding this timeline in place just let go. Bruce tells Thomas he never thought he would be able to answer him, and said there's one thing he's always wanted to tell Thomas ever since Barry gave Bruce Flashpoint Batman's note. It's that Thomas is a grandfather. Bruce has a son, Damian Wayne. Barry yells out, "Batman! The treadmill is leaving now! With or without me running on it! We have to leave now!" Bruce tries to talk Thomas into coming, but Thomas has long since accepted his fate, and he pushes Bruce onto the treadmill, Thomas telling Barry to keep his promise of saving his son. With the treadmill fully powered up and about to leave the Flashpoint behind, Thomas tells Bruce everything in his life was the right choice because it led to Bruce, his son, and then he tells Bruce to live his life. Give Damian the life he couldn't give Bruce. Let the Batman die with me. Thomas says, then a crack! And Bruce and Barry are gone. Thomas thinks back to that day. Bruce fell down into the cave. What he told his son, sometimes we fall, but to always remember to never stay down because Wayne's rise. And then Thomas puts on his cowl and runs towards the light, seemingly accepting his face and facing it head on as the Flashpoint is totally erased. Then we see Bruce and Barry in the Speed Force running through time. Bruce demanding, "We go back!" But Barry telling him, there's nothing to go back to, it's all gone, then asking why the button's radiation led them there in the first place. "To see my father," Bruce says. "But why?" Barry replies, saying while he told him this presence took time and relationships from them all to hurt them all and weaken them. Just then, we see someone close behind them in the Speed Force, and it's Eobard Thawne. But how could that be? We just saw the Reverse Flash die in Batman issue 21, The Button Part 1, after he grabbed the button, then in a flash of light said he saw God, and then died before Batman. Bruce notices that he still has the button in his hand. This must be before he died, Bruce says. Barry then saying how the Speed Force must have placed them there on purpose. Barry tries to stop Thawne, telling him that if he keeps running, he'll die. The Reverse Flash yells back to them. They have no idea what he's seen or where he's been, and that he knows who the power of the button belongs to, and he's eager to face it, saying, "You've never faced anything like him before." And just like that, the issue ends. The Button Part 3 is over. What will happen in issue 4 of The Button, Flash issue 22, The Button Part 4? Story by Joshua Williamson and Tom King. Script by Joshua Williamson. Pencils and ink by Jason Fabic. Colors by Brad Anderson. Letters by Deron Bennett. Covers by Jason Fabic and Brad Anderson. Variant cover by Tim Sale and Brandon Wagner. Associate editor Rebecca Taylor. Editor Mark Doyle. Comic published by DC Comics. All rights, story, art, and characters are owned by DC Comics and their respected owners, not by me. This has been part 3 of The Button, and I'm your host, Keith One Shot. If you like this video, make sure to support DC Comics, pick up a copy of the comics, trade singles, or paperbacks. Support your local comic book shop. Take care, have a great day, and goodbye!